Today we're going to be teaching you about the High Level Mobility Assessment Tool, or the HIMAT. This is a tool to assess people with high level mobility and balance problems. To take this test, somebody needs to be able to ambulate for 20 meters independently, but gait orthoses are allowed. It will take approximately 5 to 10 minutes, and it is validated for individuals who have traumatic brain injury. So what we're going to need today is a gait belt for patient safety, something to measure with, some tape to mark off our walkway, something to time, and an object roughly the size of a brick. We're going with a tissue box. And basically we're going to need to measure out a walkway that is going to be 20 meters total, with tape at the start and at the end of the 20 meters, as well as at 5 meters and at 15 meters, because we're only going to be recording the middle 10 meters.
For the HIMAT, we are using a gait belt for safety, but we are not putting our hands on the patient. If we have to put our hands on, then they receive a score of 0. For all of these assessments, we're only recording the time for the middle 10 meters of the walkway, and the patient is allowed one practice trial if needed. For the first assessment, we're going to be looking at walking. So you're going to walk from the start of the pathway to the end as quickly as you can, but safely. You can have one practice trial if you'd like, and I'll be recording the time in the middle 10 meters. When you're ready, walk as fast as you can safely from here to the end of the track.
For the walking assessment, if they are able to complete it within 6.6 seconds, they get a 1 for their scoring. If it takes them 5.4 to 6.6 seconds, they get a 2. If it takes them 4.3 to 5.3 seconds, they get a 3. And if it takes them shorter than 4.3 seconds, they get a 4.
The second assessment is walking backwards. So you will walk the length of the track backwards as quickly as you can, but safely. When you're ready, go.
For the walking backwards scoring, if it takes them longer than 13.3 seconds, they get a 1. If it takes them 8.1 to 13.3 seconds, they get a score of 2. If it takes them 5.8 to 8 seconds, they get a 3. And if they can complete it within 5.8 seconds, they get a 4.
The third assessment is walking on toes. So you'll walk the length of the track on your toes without letting your heels touch the ground as quickly as you can, but safely. When you're ready, walk on your toes.
For the walking on toes scoring, if they have any heel contact during the middle 10 meters, it counts as a fail. If they're not able to complete it within 8.9 seconds, they get a score of 1. If it takes them 7 seconds to 8.9 seconds, they get a 2. If they get a time of 5.4 to 6.9, they get a 3. And if they complete it within 5.4 seconds, they get a 4.
The fourth assessment is walking over an obstacle. So you'll walk the length of the track as quickly as you can, but safely. When you come to the object at midline, you'll step over it, not allowing your foot to touch it, and continue walking the rest of the way. Go ahead.
For walking over an obstacle scoring, if the patient touches the object or walks around the object, it is considered a fail. If it takes them longer than 7.1 seconds, they receive a score of 1. If they complete it within 5.4 to 7.1 seconds, it is considered a 2. If they complete it within 4.5 to 5.3 seconds, it's considered a 3. And if they complete it within 4.5 seconds, it is considered a 4.
The fifth assessment is running. So you're going to run from the start to the end as fast as you can safely. Go ahead.
For the running scoring, if the patient fails to have a consistent flight phase during the trial, they would receive a 0. If it takes them longer than 2.7 seconds, they would get a 1. If they complete it from 2 seconds to 2.7 seconds, they get a 2. If it takes them 1.7 to 1.9 seconds, they get a 3. And if they complete it within 1.7 seconds, they get a 4.
The sixth assessment is skipping. So you're going to skip from the start to the finish as quickly as you can safely, and a skip looks like this. When you're ready, go ahead.
For the skip scoring, if the patient is unable to get a consistent flight phase during their trial, they will receive a 0. If it takes them longer than 4 seconds, they would get a 1. If it takes them 3.5 to 4 seconds, they get a 2. If it takes them 3 seconds to 3.4 seconds, they get a 3. And if they complete it within 3 seconds, they get a 4.
The seventh assessment is hopping. So you're going to stand on your affected leg and hop from the 5 meter mark to the 15 meter mark, so 10 meters total, as quickly as you can safely. Okay, go ahead.
For the hopping scoring, if it takes them longer than 7 seconds, they receive a 1. If it takes them 5.3 to 7 seconds, they receive a 2. If it takes them 4.1 to 5.2 seconds, it becomes a 3. And if they can complete it within 4.1 seconds, they receive a 4.
The eighth assessment is bounding on the affected side. So you're going to start standing on your unaffected side, or less affected, with your hands on your hips, and you're going to jump forward, landing on your affected side and holding that position. We'll do this 3 times and take the average. When you're ready, go ahead and jump forward. And hold that position.
For bounding on the affected limb, if the person gets less than 80 centimeters, they receive a 1. If they get between 80 and 103 centimeters, they get a 2. If they get between 104 and 132 centimeters, they receive a 3. And if they bound more than 132 centimeters, they receive a 4.
The ninth assessment is bounding onto your less affected side. So you'll start again with your hands on your hips, standing on your more affected side, and you'll jump as far as you can, landing on your less affected side. And we'll do that 3 times and I'll take the average. Okay, go ahead and jump forward. And hold that position.
For bounding on the less affected limb, if the patient gets less than 82 centimeters, they receive a 1. If they get between 82 and 105 centimeters, they receive a 2. If they get between 106 and 129 centimeters, they receive a 3. And if they get more than 129 centimeters, they receive a 4.
The 10th assessment is ascending stairs. So you're going to walk up these stairs as you normally would. And when you get to the 14th standard step, you're going to stop there.
For the stairs scoring, if the patient is able to use the stairs reciprocally without a rail, they are scored in the upstairs independent and get an additional 5 points in the last column of the upstairs dependent. If the patient has to use a rail or non-reciprocal pattern to get up or down the stairs, they are scored on the upstairs dependent scale. For upstairs dependent, if it takes them longer than 22.8 seconds, they get a score of 1. If they get between 14.6 and 22.8, they get a score of 2. If they get between 12.3 and 14.5 seconds, they get a score of 3. If they get to the top of the stairs within 12.3 seconds, they get a 4. For upstairs independent, if it takes them longer than 9.1 seconds, they get a 1. If they get between 7.6 and 9.1, they get a score of 2. If they get 6.8 to 7.5 seconds, they get a score of 3. And if they get to the top within 6.8 seconds, they receive a score of 4.
The 11th assessment is descending 14 standard steps. So you'll walk down the stairs as you normally would.
For downstairs dependent, if it takes them longer than 24.3 seconds, they receive a score of 1. If they get to the bottom of the stairs between 17.6 and 24.3 seconds, they receive a score of 2. If it takes them 12.8 to 17.5 seconds, they get a score of 3, and if they get to the bottom of the stairs within 12.8 seconds, they receive a score of 4. For downstairs independent, if it takes them longer than 8.4 seconds, they receive a score of 1. If they get to the bottom between 6.6 and 8.4, they receive a score of 2. If they are between the time of 5.8 and 6.5, they receive a score of 3, and if it takes them 5.8 seconds or less, they receive a score of 4. The highest score you can get on the high mat is 54. The higher the score, the greater functional mobility and balance the patient has.